test kitchen in the dining room again. It's on Groundhog Day. It's like Groundhog Day, isn't it, you guys?
It is Groundhog Day.
We're kind of doing it again. We're doing the second half of our wine experience and informational videos. And let me introduce the gang, Mark, and then you can take it from there. How about that?
You want me to reintroduce the gang?
Well, yeah, you can do it if you want to.
Dr. Sandy Naples.
In the black, yeah.
Yes, Jeff Simon, Adam Zagatti, Brian Fry, Matt Frampton, myself, Mark Canzonetta, Michael Alberini, John Miles, Robert Bartolomucci. We're all here celebrating wine and trying to, talk to our viewers about wine and how great it is and the experience that it is. And in this segment, we want to talk about the role of the distributor, which is Matt Frampton.
That's what Matt does.
That's what Matt does. And then the role of these two guys, because they have wine shops, along with restaurants.
Who do you work for?
So I work for Heidelberg Distributing.
For how long?
For 7 years. Largest distributor in the state of Ohio and 7th in the country.
Did you know a lot about wine going in, or did you kind of learn it on the way? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew a lot about wine since before you were allowed to drink.
Right.
So why would I know anything
Actually,
about
Michael's uncle Richard introduced me to wine.
To drive you to the store to buy some, probably, right?
He turned me on to wine, and I was captivated by it ever since.
Good. What is the role of the distributor these days?
So let's not forget, wine is an agricultural product. Grapes are grown, stuff happens, fires happen, trucks break down. Trucks break down, and all kinds of tariffs. Tariffs happen as well. So it's our job to be the middleman between the consumer and the wine buyer. And
whether it's restaurant, wine shop, or like a big box retailer like a Giant Eagle.
Right, absolutely. So we're the middleman. So we deal with there's a fine line. So we have to anticipate what the customer is going to buy. We also have to anticipate what's going to be available, considering the vintage, and we have to anticipate whether the wine is going to be good. So that is our basic, well, not our basic role. That's one of our roles. The other portion of it is actually filling containers and getting them across the country, across the nation, or across the world to our
what's
customers.
your biggest challenge distributing to rockheads like all of us around the table?
Plus introducing them to new products and things, right?
New products and the consumer. What's your biggest challenge?
I think it's education. It's education for the people that are selling the wine to the individual. Everyone here knows a lot about wine. The majority of people buying wine, well, I don't want to say the majority, but most of the people that are buying wine know about wine. But they have 10 people that work for them, and a lot of those people are just willing to take an order and sell whatever their customer is kind of leaning towards.
All right. So from you guys' standpoint, Brian and Michael, having retail shops both in your restaurant and your restaurant Barrel 33 and Michael Alberini's wine shop, what is your biggest challenge getting people to buy wine?
Yeah, well, I come at it from a unique perspective because I was also a wholesaler rep for almost 7 years before I got a place of my own. And, it's really one of the things the Court of American Master Sommeliers teaches us all is the process of helping people find what they want to drink. It's not about pushing an agenda or pushing a specific wine or a specific type of wine or country. It's engaging that customer, that person that walks through your door in a conversation so they help understand what they want to drink. If you do that correctly, the rest will take care of itself.
Do you have to apply like the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid?
Well, it all depends on the consumer. I think part of our role, and this is something I learned from Michael a long time ago.
I've been stupid for a long time.
Well, I think we all have at some point, but is to just do a good assessment as quickly as you can of where the consumer is, and that'll help you help guide them. But that all starts really with the simple conversation from the time they walk in the door, and a lot of listening and a lot less talking.
Yeah.
As Brian knows, because he sells food in his business as well as a retailer, and as do I. It's in the business of wine, it's a lot of pinkies out, and there's a lot of egos involved in the game. As far as that's concerned, when I taste wine, I'm sure Brian does the same. We taste wine for our market. It's not about what we like. You can walk into so many wine shops or wine stores, and you know what the owner likes. Okay, you walk into his place, you walk into my place, and some of these other places that are passionate about really getting the message out.
So does that mean you front load a pallet of wine or front load a stack?
It's not about quantity. Today, Americans are about instant gratification. They want what they want's approachable now. We don't want to sit and drink a glass of wine and say, well, that'd be great in 10 years. Well, my steak's going to get cold by then.
How much does a label sell the wine?
Label, marketing is huge. It's big. You look at the Wine Spectator Top 100, but you know what? That doesn't mean that just because they drive advertising, that's necessarily a good wine. I know
Amen, brother.
So don't go by the label.
Yeah.
Don't go by the label.
And
if you were to go by reviewers, you guys, and like what reviewers would you post in your wine sales in your stores? And Adam,
Robert Parker. I trust
Robert
Parker.
Parker.
And Venice also, I think, has done some great work.
More recently, but I like the British decanter. I think
Decanter's excellent.
They do a wonderful job as well. They give a very
if we're a novice, who do we
Less
look at?
influenced by advertising.
These three things that we just mentioned are very non-biased, and so it gives someone that is unsure the wherewithal to say, all right, I'll take a chance on that because it's not driven by marketing.
Yeah, that's a great
and
point.
dollars.
Great
Wine
point.
Spectator isn't blind. Their tastings where Parker did blind his
Yes,
tastings.
yes.
So I looked at the two of them when I was coming into the wine thing. I would look at Parker's ratings and I look at Wine Spectator ratings, which are a little bit skewed, and I'd look at Parker for the length of how long is this wine going to last? I look at Spectator, maybe drinkability. That's kind of how I.
That's
Sure,
a good way to play
and if I may, I am very guilty of saying, gigantic producer, poo-poo, but sometimes they come up with some fabulous things.
Absolutely.
They don't pound on the table.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. It's at his table.
Go out the microphone.
So noisy.
All right, when we come back, we're going to visit with some connoisseurs, some folks. And if you want to be a connoisseur, how should you do it? And how should you stack your cabinet? Pesto's Test Kitchen in the dining room today. Should be fun.
Gentlemen.
Cheers.
Back here in Pesto's Test Kitchen, I'm drinking a wine from 1982.
Wow.
Probably the same wine Michael Stanley drank. Or Lover Boy. One of those guys, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We thought we'd talk about, if people are at home or watching, they think, well, I want to know more about wine and I want to buy wine, but I'm not sure what to buy. We have a couple of guys.
There's a couple different ways you can buy wine.
Yeah.
You can buy wine like I buy wine. I buy wine and I put it in my fridge over there, and it has dual controls, and I have wine for my friends. I have wine for these guys. So these guys are the connoisseurs.
Yeah, who gets the better wine, your friends or these guys?
Well, depends on the day.
Okay.
It depends on the day.
Very diplomatic.
It does.
Very
It
diplomatic.
does. But we have a couple connoisseurs here. Jeff
Yeah.
Simon,
He's on the
Dr.
right.
Sandy Naples.
On the left.
And those guys, they have inlines
That's
to
around.
wine that I can never get.
Yeah.
Because those guys have been appreciating wine and studying wine. Sandy, for you, since what? Medical school?
Pretty much right out of.
I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I ran into a friend of mine who brought over a bottle of Margaux one time and popped the cork, and that was it. I smelled
So that's
it.
a French wine.
Chateau Margaux.
Chateau Margaux. And I'm like, what is that? So
So it opened up your mind.
That opened up my mind to a whole, not the homemade wine that I grew up on, or
And we all did. We all did.
You
went from here to here.
Yeah, we made a huge leap, and it was actually the '82 vintage, and Lou's Beer and Wine over on Austin Town.
Sure.
Andy's my mentor. He got me started in it. We used to have little Wednesday night get-togethers at my house. I was single, working in the ER. I'd come home. He was working later than I was, and I'd make food, and he'd bring the wine. And they talk about that. We're talking about reading about wines. Well, I read Parker's book. I read Broadbent's book. But you have the point to put your palate on by tasting. There's the key.
Yep.
And that's what got me started. So pretty much cleaned out all of the leftover 82s and 83 Bordeaux's he had, and then I kind of went on my own. I started buying futures out of California.
So what's futures mean?
Well, when the vintage comes out and they start doing barrel tastings, the experts get invited to those things and they taste them and make their opinion that this is a great vintage, this is a crappy vintage, And you know, us who are reading these things like, ooh, you know, we can get these at a better price. You buy it at some, you know, some volume. And basically, between my older stuff I bought locally, my other stuff that I was hoping to, you know, grow into, I bought on futures.
How about you,
How
Jeff?
those predictions work?
Yeah.
They were
Jeff,
great.
how about you?
That's a great much less auspicious. My wife and I used to drink white Zinfandel with an orange slice.
Just like in the commercials.
So what's wrong with that?
We got nothing. After the third bottle, nothing. We got married in '98, went to Napa in 2000. And then I realized that this world of wine is
Was it
something
like,
that I was going to be very, very passionate about for a long time. Came back, started going to Michael's place, at
Springfield
Grill when he first opened.
Back in the
had
day.
the greatest wine
Yeah.
list going.
Michael made the Springfield Grill.
Michael taught me so much about wine. I started getting more into it. I stocked my cellar. We're talking about cellar stocking. I made the beginner's mistake. It was all one varietal. It was all California caps. California caps. It was easy to, the label was easy to read. I understood them. Stocked up. I kind of regret that now because I still have a lot of cabs, but now they're aged. You know, they're 20-some years old. And they're drinking.
That's not a bad thing.
No, they're drinking.
No,
Now it's not bad.
no.
We're
Can
okay
we
with
come
that.
over?
The last, absolutely, because I like to turn over my cellar so I can buy new stuff. The problem now is, so what I'm trying to do is correct that by going into new varietals that I found that I really like. Pinot Noir is my new favorite varietal.
So do you like French or
Shiraz.
American?
I'm just now getting into French, like within the last month or two. My favorite, besides American, would be Italian. My favorite wine next to champagne would be Amarone.
Nice.
That's what we like you.
That's what
It's the slowest, sexiest wine ever made. Open it up with dinner, light some candles with your wife or your loved one, and I'm telling you, you're gonna have a good night. And then lastly, my friend Randy, our mutual friend, he said, so I started buying through Randy. He says, Jeff, he goes, you're buying too much expensive wine, you know, for you and your wife. He goes, you need to get some drinkers. I said, well, I have. You mean more friends? He says, no. He says your friends that like beer, they love beer, but they'll drink your wine. He goes, you got to drink. So now I started adding some drinkers into my collection.
As do I.
After you have a few nice bottles,
you have to have a good
you gotta have some
one.
drinkers. So when you start pouring those, ripping those corks out, you're down to the $20, $30.
How much fun is that?
And it's really fun.
And you can find some great stuff at that price.
And these days, for $20, you can find very, very drinkable
But the bottom line
wine.
is the non-wine drinkers don't really appreciate it.
Yeah, they don't care. So you have some drinkers.
However, I get asked this question every time. You know, everyone comes over, they want to look at the wine cellar. You go in there, and they always ask, oh, what are you gonna, everything in my cellar. I don't care how much it's worth now. Is
open for bid.
Open for if it's appropriate with the food or what we're going to do.
Because you're more generous than me.
Because you know what? One of my buddies, Rick Stigliano, told me, he's the one that brought the Margot over to the house, by the way. And he said, he goes, listen, you're going to pour wine for your friends. You pour them the best thing you got. You set their palate right. He goes, if they like it, they like wine. He goes, they don't like it. He goes, they don't drink anything. It's easy. So again, it comes down to
We don't have the same friend.
yeah, he's on the opposite program I am. He's getting into Bordeaux. Now I'm drinking more Pinots and Zins, and I'm on mailing lists in California.
Yeah.
And honestly, on a day-to-day
In
basis,
closing,
that's what we do.
this is a good stopping point, and then we'll take a little break and come back and kind of finish things up. Sound good, you guys?
Do this thing.
Well done. This is the Pesto's Test Kitchen meet and greet. Are we allowed to call it that?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's wine and greet.
Wine
We
and
got the
greeting
meat
and a
and
lot of
we're
meat
greeting.
and we're
Yeah.
greeting. And I didn't know about this brown bag challenge
Isn't
thing
that the
you guys
coolest
do.
thing?
Yeah, what do you do?
You know what? We challenge ourselves. This was a thing that we all did back in our past on Sundays, the brown bag crew. You know, Sunday night after the restaurants let out, we all sat around and drank wine in brown bags and said, let's test what we are.
And try to figure out what it is,
And I'm
right?
going to turn it over to the experts.
What do you
I'm
think,
gonna-
Brian?
Well, I'll tell you, Mike. I mean, the reason why we do it is so we judge wine without any preconditions, any of our perceived notions that we have, any of our ideas we have in our head. We don't know what's in here. We judge it for what it is. And I'll tell you, one of the people I learned the most about this from is my friend Michael.
There you go.
We always, and we always had a great time with it. The idea is whether you bring a $10 bottle of wine or a $100 bottle of wine, you have no preconceived notions. And as retailers, really quick, I'd never taste wines my distributors bring in. They never let them tell me the price, as Matt would attest to, and I don't want to know the varietal because it's a constant, ongoing education. That's what it's all here for. That's why we all do it, and we've done it in our own homes for many years.
Amen.
It's a big part of what the core teaches us, right? Exactly, right.
Not as often anymore.
How do you do it, Adam?
What's it look like, smell like, taste like? What types of things look and smell like? That is? What types of things smell and taste like? What that is? And what types of things could that possibly be?
And what you'd be willing to pay for it.
Yes, that is a huge part of the equation.
No,
And
in the
what
port side, they don't care. But on this side, I would say
You're
this
supposed
is
to
a-
guess what's in
This
here.
is a Sonoma County Merlot from Alexander Valley, probably 27.
Is that correct?
Oh!
Is he right?
You were right next door.
Nice
That's
job.
not bad.
I was a couple miles away.
He was good. Very, very
To be 2 miles off is still brilliant, my friend. Yeah, you're good.
well done. Amen.
My way across like a mile and a half.
But there is no other way to truly evaluate wine
And to drink.
than doing it blind.
And there are
That
never
is
any
the
right
way.
or wrongs on your palate.
And
It's always about what you
very
like.
important.
That's exactly right.
You never know when a server's going to walk up to you and say, "What is this? I have to give it to my table."
There you go.
That never happened.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Boys, thank you.
Thank you.